Hello, I'm Mrs. Mackenzie from Essex Primary School and I'm looking forward to spending time with you today for this Year 3 grammar tutorial about comparative and superlative adjectives. In Year 3 we've been enjoying some of the funniest, silliest, meanest, craziest moments from the Twits as they try to one-up each other with all these mad tricks they play on each other. Best of all was when they arrived home to find their house upside down. Imagine if that happened to you. Let's begin with adjectives. You've already learnt that we use regular adjectives to describe nouns. For example, we can describe Mr. Twit's beard with the adjective filthy. Mr. Twit has a filthy beard. In fact, compared to most other people's beards, Mr. Twit's beard is definitely filthier. It's full of disgusting leftover food like sardines, cheese and cornflakes, so he's probably got the filthiest beard you've ever seen. Filthier is a comparative adjective because adjectives can also be used to describe and compare one thing, person, action or state to another. For example, is Mr. Twit nastier than Mrs. Twit? Nastier is a comparative adjective. The question requires you to think about the similarities or differences between the Twits. So who do you think is nastier? I find it really hard to decide. When there are three or more of something or someone, then we need to use a superlative. These are adjectives that refer to the greatest difference between the nouns that are being compared. So if we were to compare Mr. and Mrs. Twit with almost anyone in the whole world, they're probably the nastiest people you could ever meet. With comparative and superlative adjectives, we wouldn't be able to argue about whether Ronaldo is a better footballer than Messi, or define whether Usain Bolt is the fastest man in the world. And there would most definitely be no best days ever. Comparatives and superlatives help us organise and order our world. They tell us the difference between certain groups of objects, people or animals, giving more information about them. We start to learn to make comparisons when we're quite young and we discover our favourite toys, foods or people. We do it without thinking. It's instinctive to humans to want, be or have the best. Comparatives and superlatives are adjectives with a twist. There are certain rules for formulating or creating them, but these are quite simple once you know if they're regular or irregular. Let's look at regular comparatives and superlatives first. To form regular comparatives and superlatives, you need to know how many syllables there are in the original adjective. Syllables are sometimes called the beats of a word, the parts of unbroken sound that make up a whole word. For example, let's take one of Roald Dahl's fizz-whizzing adjectives. Fizz-whizzing has 3 syllables. So when the adjective has only one syllable, like small, the comparative is formed by adding the ending er to the word to make smaller. For example, when Mr. and Mrs. Twit get the dreaded shrinks, they get smaller and smaller because of their great weight pressing down on their heads until Mr. Twit is so small he disappears. To make the superlative, which is the greatest difference or similarity, you need to add E-S-T, to make smallest, small, smaller, smallest. If the adjective already ends with an E, like large, then all you need to do is add R for the comparative larger and ST for the superlative largest. When one-syllable adjectives are consonant-vowel consonant words, like big, the last consonant has to be doubled. When the adjective has two syllables or more to make the comparative, you need to add more. For example, Mr. Twits' beard became more disgusting with every meal. To make the superlative of disgusting, you need to add the most. In fact, Mr. Twit had the most disgusting, grimy, smelly beard you've ever seen because he never ever washed, not even on a Sunday. When the adjective ends with the letter Y, then the Y changes to an I. For example, Mrs. Twit has ugly thoughts, and as she has more every day, every week, and every year, she gets uglier and uglier until she becomes one of the ugliest people you've ever seen, both inside and out. The problem is that not all adjectives follow these simple rules, and it's the ones that we use quite often that are irregular, such as bad, worse, the worst, good, better, the best, little, less, the least, many, more, the most, or much more, the most. Unfortunately, we just need to learn these. Fortunately, this is not too tricky because we come across them most days in our conversations. Now we know Mr. and Mrs. Twit are both horrible, but let's make a comparison between them both by turning horrible into a comparative adjective. First, we need to count the syllables in horrible. Horrible. So if it's two syllables or more, what do we need to add to make the comparative adjective? How about I add ER to make horribler? Does that sound right? I don't think I've heard that word before. So what could we do instead? Yes, that's right. We could try adding more. Who is more horrible, Mr. or Mrs. Twit? Well, they're both two of the cruelest, most despicable people you could ever meet. So it's impossible for me to decide who is the most horrible. But it's been a whole lot of fun reading about the terrible things they do to each other, and I hope that you enjoy the book as much as I do. Now I think it's time for you to make some comparatives and superlatives on your own. I've made a chart of some adjectives, comparative adjectives, and superlatives, and some of them are missing. Follow the rules that we've been learning about to complete the missing words. But be careful, not all adjectives follow the rules. Just like some of you, perhaps. When you've completed the chart, then read the missing words to yourself to see if they all sound right to you. Remember, we use these words frequently when we're speaking, so you'll probably be able to spot it if something isn't quite right. So here are the missing words coming up now. You should pause this video now and have a go at filling them in. Fantastic! Well done for completing your task. I'm sure your teachers will want to see your work. If you'd like a further challenge, then have a go at writing about some superlatives, moments like the funniest, silliest, craziest, most embarrassing things that have happened to you. I'm sure you can invent some as well. I'm Mrs. Mackenzie from Essex Primary School, and I can't wait to find out what happens to those terrible twits in the end. Bye for now.